All right. So, as always, we're going to start with the refuge verses. And we are on chapter 5 today. So, Sangye chodeng sakchi chonamla jengsha padu degni chasichi degi jensagi pe sonam ki drola pinshi sangi drapasho Sangye chodeng sakchi chonamla jengsha padu degni chasichi degi jensagi pe sonam ki drola pinshi sangi drapasho Sangye chodeng sakchi chonamla jengsha padu degni chasichi degi jensagi pe sonam ki Drala Pinshi Sangidra Parsho. All right, so chapter 5 of The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva. Chapter 5 is Vigilant Introspection. Those who wish to keep the trainings must, with perfect self-possession, guard their minds. Without this guard upon the mind, the trainings cannot be preserved. Wandering where it will, the elephant of mind will bring us down to torment in the hell of unrelenting pain. No worldly beast, however wild and crazed, could bring upon us such calamities. If with mindfulness as rope, the elephant of mind is tethered all around, our fears will come to nothing. Every virtue drop into our hands. Tigers, lions, elephants, and bears, snakes, and every hostile foe. Those who guard the prisoners in hell, ghosts and ghouls, and every evil wraith. By simple binding of this mind alone, all these things are likewise bound. By simple taming of this mind alone, all these things are likewise tamed. For all anxiety and fear, and pain in boundless quantity, their source and wellspring is the mind itself, as he who spoke the truth declared. The hellish instruments to torture living beings, who invented them for such intent? Who has forged this burning iron ground? Whence have all these demon women sprung? All are but the offspring of the sinful mind. This the mighty sage has said. Throughout the triple world, therefore, there is no greater bane than mind itself. If transcendent giving is to dissipate the poverty of beings, in what way, since the poor are always with us, have former Buddhists practiced it? Have former Buddhists practiced it? One second. Transcendent giving, so the teachings say, consists in the intention to bestow on every being all one owns, together with the fruits of such a gift. It is indeed a matter of the mind itself. Where could beings, fishes, and the rest be placed to keep them safe from being killed? Deciding to refrain from every harmful act is said to be transcendent discipline. Harmful beings are everywhere, like space itself. Impossible it is that all should be suppressed, but let this angry mind alone be overthrown. And it's as though all foes had been subdued. To cover all the earth with sheets of leather, where could such amounts of skin be found? But with leather soles of just my shoes, it is as though I cover all the earth. So, uh, Lama Glenn told me something one time. He said, don't, he said, worry about your own morals 99% and only the morals of others 1%. And I think this relates to this passage here also. Uh, we shouldn't really worry too much about trying to make the world a perfect place, or at least, what our idea of perfect is. Because honestly, our idea of perfection is skewed since we are still sentient beings. we all have a different idea of what perfection is. So we don't even have a general consensus of what a perfect world would look like. Um, ask me what a perfect world would look like, and then ask my parents, you're going to get a totally different answer. So that's not perfection. That's not perfect. um, but you get the idea. So worry about your own mind. Worry about your own morals. Of course, help others, have bodhicitta, but try not to judge them too heavily. It it would be a waste of time anyway. And thus the outer course of things I myself cannot restrain, but let me just restrain my mind, and what is left to be restrained? A clear intent can fructify and bring us birth in such as Brahma's realm. The acts of body and of speech are less. They do not generate a like result. Recitations and austerities, long though they may prove to be, if practiced with distracted mind, are futile. So the knower of reality has said. All those who fail to understand the secret of the mind, the greatest of all things, although they wish for joy and sorrow's end, will wander to no purpose uselessly. Therefore, I will take in hand and well protect this mind of mine. What use to me are many disciplines if I can't guard and discipline my mind? When in wild, unruly crowds, I'm careful and attentive of my wounds. Likewise, when in evil company, this wound, my mind, I'll constantly protect. For if I carefully protect my wounds, because I fear the pain of minor injuries, why should I not protect the wound that is my mind, for fear of being crushed beneath the cliffs of hell? If this is how I act and live, then even in the midst of evil folk, or even with fair women, all is well. My steady keeping of the vows will not decline. My property, my honor, all can freely go, my body and my livelihood as well, and even other virtues may decline, but never will I let my mind regress. All you who would protect your minds, maintain your mindfulness and introspection. Guard them both at cost of life and limb. I join my hands beseeching you. Those disabled by ill health are helpless, powerless to act. The mind, when likewise cramped by ignorance, is impotent and cannot do its work. For those who have no introspection, though they hear the teachings, ponder them, or meditate, like water seeping from a leaking jar, their learning will not settle in their memories. So this also reminds me of something. Um, this is especially true on this side of the world. And I'm probably guilty of this or was guilty of this a long time ago, thinking that it's enough to just meditate. No, there's an entire path. Meditation is just one piece of that puzzle. So it's important that we follow the eightfold path to its fruition. Um, that's why sometimes I take issue with these mindfulness uh like like apps and stuff like that. People that aren't even Buddhist teachers, they just teach mindfulness and that's it. But they don't teach the eightfold path. Um, mindfulness is just one part of it. And of course there were, great teachers that taught the whole thing. Uh Thich Nhat Hanh being one of them. But you can't just teach one part of the path. You have to teach the entire thing like he did. Many are endowed with joyful diligence. They've learned also and imbued with faith, but through the fault of lacking introspection, they will not escape the stain of sin and downfall. Lack of introspection is a thief. It slinks behind when mindfulness abates, and all the merit we have gathered in it, it stills, and down we go to lower realms. Defilements are a band of robbers, looking for their chance to injure us. They steal our virtue when their moment comes, and batter out the lies of happy destinies. Therefore, from the gateway of my mind, my mindfulness shall not leave to stray, and if it wanders, it shall be recalled by thoughts of anguish in the lower worlds. Through fear and by the counsels of their abbots, and staying ever in their teacher's company, and thus, in those endowed with fortune and devotion, mindfulness is cultivated easily. So it's beneficial to recall the suffering of the lower realms. But as I've said before, don't get too caught up on it. Don't be so afraid of the lower realms that you're paralyzed with fear. That's not what we want. It's just good to know that they're there, that it's a possibility, but we don't want to do the thing where you're, so afraid of hell that you're only practicing out of fear, because then there's no joy in your practice, and then it's not really doing anything. It's not beneficial or skillful. The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas both possess unclouded vision, seen everything, all lies open to their gaze, and likewise, I'm always in their presence. One who has such thoughts as these will gain devotion and a sense of fear and shame. For such a one, the memory of Buddha rises frequently before the mind. When mindfulness is stationed as a sentinel, a guard upon the threshold of the mind, introspection will be likewise there, returning when forgotten or dispersed. If at the outset, when I check my mind, I find that it is tainted with some fault, I shall be still and self-possessed, unmoving like a piece of wood. I shall never vacantly allow my gaze to wander all around, but rather, with a focused mind, will always go with eyes cast down. But that I may relax my gaze, I'll sometimes raise my eyes and look around. And if there are some people standing in my sight, I'll look at them and greet them with a friendly word. And yet, to spy the dangers on the road, I'll scrutinize the four directions one by one. When I stop to rest, I'll turn around and look behind me, back along my way. I will survey the land in front, behind, and carry on, or else retrace my steps. And every time and place, therefore, I'll know my deeds and act accordingly. My body shall remain like this, embarking thus upon a given course. From time to time, I'll verify, inquiring how my body is disposed. The rampant elephant, my mind, once tied to that great post, reflection on the teachings, must now be watched with all my strength, that it might never slip away. Those who strive to master concentration should never for an instant be distracted. They should always watch their minds, inquiring, where is now my mind engaged? When this becomes impossible, in case of danger or festivity, I'll act as it seems best. For it is taught that rules of discipline may be relaxed in times of generosity. When something has been planned and started on, attention should not drift to other things. With thoughts fixed on the chosen target, that and that alone should be pursued. Behaving in this way, all tasks are well performed, and nothing is achieved by doing otherwise. If thus we act, the secondary defilement, lack of introspection, will not grow. And if you find yourself engaged in different kinds of pointless conversation and curious sights, the like of which are abound, be rid of all delight and taste for them. And if you find you're grubbing in the soil, or pulling up the grass, or tracing idle patterns on the ground, remembering the precepts of the blissful one, in fear, restrain yourself at once. And when you feel the wish to move about, or even to express yourself in speech, first examine what is in your mind, for steadfast ones should act correctly. So it's always beneficial to check your intention before you say something, before it comes out of your mouth. When the urge arises in your mind to feelings of desire or angry hate, do not act, be silent, do not speak, and like a log of wood, be sure to stay. And when your mind is wild or filled with mockery, or filled with pride and haughty arrogance, or when you would expose another's secret guilt, to bring up old dissensions, or to act deceitfully, or when you want to fish for praise, or criticize and spoil another's name, or use harsh language, sparring for a fight, it's then that like a log you should remain. So Shantideva is going into detail about right speech in these passages. When you yearn for wealth, attention, fame, a circle of retainers serving you, and when you look for honors, recognition, it's then that like a log you should remain. And when you are inclined to overlook another's need and want to get the best thing for yourself, and when you feel the urge to speak, it's then like a log you should remain. Impatience, indolence, faint-heartedness, and likewise arrogance and careless speech, attachment to your side. When these arise, it's then like a log you should remain. Examine thus yourself from every side. Take note of your defilements and your pointless efforts. For thus the heroes on the Bodhisattva path seize firmly on such faults with proper remedies. With perfect and unyielding faith, with steadfastness, respect, and courtesy, with conscientiousness and all, work calmly for the happiness of others. Let us not be downcast by the warring wants of childish persons quarreling. Their thoughts are bred from conflict and emotion. Let us understand and treat them lovingly. When acting irreproachably for our sake or the sake of others, let us always bear in mind the thought that we are selfless, like an apparition. This supreme freedom of a human life, so long awaited, now at last attained, reflecting always thus, maintain your mind, as steady as Sumeru, king of mountains. If, O mind, you will not be aggrieved, when vultures, with their love of flesh, are tugging at this body all around, why are you so besotted with it now? Why, O mind, do you protect this body, taking it to be your own? You and it are each a separate entity. However can it be of use to you? Why, foolish mind, don't you appropriate a clean form carved in wood? How is it fit to guard an unclean engine for the making of impurity? First, with mind's imagination, shed the covering of skin, and with the blade of wisdom, strip the flesh from off the bony frame. And when you have divided all the bones and searched right down amid the very marrow, you yourself should ask this question: where is the essential core? If persisting in the search, you see no underlying essence, why do you protect with such desire the body that you now possess? Its filth you cannot eat, O mind. Its blood likewise is not for you to drink, its innards too, unsuitable to suck. This body, what then will you make of it? And yet it may indeed be kept as food to feed the vulture and the fox. The value of this human form lies only in the use you make of it. Whatever you may do to guard and keep it, what will you do when the ruthless Lord of Death will seize and throw it to the dogs and birds? If servants who cannot be set to work are not rewarded with supplies and clothing, why do you sustain with such great pains this body, which, though nourished, will abandon you? So pay this body due remuneration, and then be sure to make it work for you. But do not lavish everything on what will not bring perfect benefit. Regard your body as a vessel, a simple boat for going here and there. Make of it a thing that answers every wish, to bring about the benefit of beings. Be the master of yourself, and have an ever-smiling countenance. Rid yourself of scowling, wrathful frowns. and be true and honest. Friend to all. Do not act inconsiderately. Move chairs and furniture so noisily around. Likewise, do not open doors with violence. Take pleasure in the practice of humility. Lama Lena told us one time not to slam doors, by the way. Herons, cats, and burglars achieve what they intend by going silently and unobserved. Such is the constant practice of a sage. When useful admonitions come unsought from those with skill in counseling their fellows, welcome them with humble gratitude, and always strive to learn from everyone. Praise all whose speech is worthy. Say, your words are excellent. And when you notice others acting well, encourage them in terms of warm approval. Extol their qualities discreetly. When they're praised by others, praise them too. But when the qualities they praise are yours, reflect upon their skill in recognizing qualities. The goal of every act is happiness itself, though even with great wealth, it's rarely found. So take your pleasure in the excellence of others. Let them be a heartfelt joy to you. By acting thus in this life, you'll lose nothing. In future lives, great bliss will come to you. Wrongdoing brings not joy but pain, and in the future, dreadful torment. Speak coherently, appropriately, clear in meaning, pleasantly. Rid yourself of craving and aversion. Speak gently with moderation. When you look at others, think that it will be through them that you will come to Buddhahood. So look on them with frank and loving hearts. Always fired by highest aspiration, laboring to implement the antidotes, you will reap great virtues in the field of excellence, and in the fields of benefits and sorrow. Acting thus with faith and understanding, you should always undertake good works. And in whatever actions you perform, you should not be dependent on another. The perfections, giving and the rest, progress in sequence, growing in importance. The great should never be abandoned for the less, and others' good should be regarded as supreme. Therefore, understanding this well, and always labor for the benefit of beings. The compassionate one farsightedly permits, to this end, even what has been prescribed. Eat only what is needful. Share with those who have embraced the discipline. With those who are defenseless or have fallen into evil states, give everything except the 3 robes of religion. The body, used to practice sacred teachings, should not be harmed in meaningless pursuits. By acting thus, the wishes of all beings will swiftly and completely be attained. They should not give up their bodies, whose compassionate thoughts are not yet pure, but let them be surrendered when both now and in the future lives great benefit is thereby gained. Do not teach the Dharma to the disrespectful, to those who, though not sick, wrap cloths around their heads, to those who carry weapons, staffs, or parasols, to those who are with covered heads. To those upon the lower paths, do not explain the vast and deep, nor tutor women unaccompanied by men, and every Dharma, high or low, expound with equal reverence. I'm assuming that this passage right here is a product of its time and culture, and not something that's as relevant today, because it says, not to tutor women unaccompanied by men. Of course, we know that times have changed and that this is no longer, at least it's not relevant here in.
The concern back then was that if you were alone with a woman without someone else there, then you could be accused of having a lucrative session of sex when you are specifically left alone, which is why they had monks keep, one would keep the monk honest. So basically, as long as it was assumed that someone else was present, then they would, obviously think that it was not a person having an affair with a woman.
Okay.
This actually happened in some of the older texts, and it got a couple of folks what's it called? Excommunicated, thrown out.
That makes perfect sense. So is
That's
it
why
as
they did so.
so this is still relevant for monastics today, is that correct?
Correct. Same with female monastics. They are also not supposed to ever be left alone with any male, because they assume they were having some sort of rendezvous, sexual wise.
That makes sense. Thank you for the elaboration, Vajir.
Mhm.
Those suited to the teachings of great scope should not be introduced to lesser paths. The rules of conduct you should not neglect, nor lead astray with talk of sutras and of mantras. When you spit and throw away your toothsticks, you should cover them, and it is wrong to foul with urine and with other filth the fields and water fit for public use. That's just good advice. That's just healthy advice right there. You definitely don't want to pollute the local water system with, waste. When eating, do not gobble noiselessly, nor stuff and cram your gaping mouth, and do not sit with legs outstretched, nor coarsely rub your hands together. Do not travel, sit, or stay alone with women of another house, and all that you have seen or have been told to be a cause of scandal that you should avoid. You know what? There it is. I appreciate you. You're so on top of things. Shanti Deva did
That's
elaborate. Um, Not rudely pointing with your finger, but rather a reverent gesture showing with the whole right hand outstretched. That is how to indicate the road. Even I do this, and I'm not sure why. When I'm pointing at something, I don't point with my finger. I point this way. It does seem less rude to me, and I don't know why. But I always do the outstretched hand. Do not wave your arms with uncouth gestures. Express yourself instead with unobtrusive signs, with gentle sounds and finger snaps. For acting otherwise is impolite excess. Lie down to sleep in the preferred direction, in the posture of the Buddha when he passed into nirvana. So that's the lion's pose, by the way. And first, with vigilance, decide that you will be quick to rise again. The actions of the Bodhisattva are unbounded, so the teachings say. Of these, until the goal is won, embrace the practices that purify your mind. Reciting thrice by day and thrice by night the sutra in 3 sections. Relying on the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, purify the rest of your transgressions. Wherever and whenever and whatever you are doing for your sake or the sake of others, implement with diligence the teachings given for that situation. There is indeed no field of knowledge that the Buddha's offspring should not learn. For those who are well versed in all these ways, there is no action destitute of merit. Directly, then, or indirectly, do nothing that is not for others' sake, and solely for their welfare dedicate your every action to the gaining of enlightenment. Never at the cost of life or limb forsake your virtuous friend, your teacher, learned in the doctrine of the Mahayana, supreme in Bodhisattva discipline. Learn how to attend upon your guru as described in Sri Sambhava's life. This and other teachings of the Buddha you should understand by reading in the sutras. Indeed, within these sutras, all the practices are found. Therefore, read and study them. The Sutra of the Essence of the Sky is the text that should be studied first. All that must be practiced constantly is clearly and extensively explained within the digest of all disciplines. So this is something you should read repeatedly. From time to time, for sake of brevity, consult the digest of the sutras. In those 2 works, peruse with diligence that noble Nagarjuna has composed. Whatever in these works is not prescribed, be sure to undertake and implement, and what you find and join there perfectly fulfill. And so protect the minds of worldly beings, examining again and yet again the state and actions of your body and mind. This alone defines in brief the maintenance of watchful introspection. But all this must be acted out in truth, for what is to be gained by mouthing syllables? What invalid was ever helped by merely reading in the doctor's treatises? So I'm going to pause. Did anybody have any questions about that chapter or anything they would like to bring up before we move on? Bo? You're good? Okay. We're going to move on. Chapter 6, Patience. All the good works gathered in 1,000 ages, such as deeds of generosity and offerings to the blissful ones, a single flash of anger shatters them. No evil is there similar to anger, no austerity to be compared with patience. Steep yourself, therefore, in patience, in various ways, insistently. Those tormented by the pain of anger never know tranquility of mind. Strangers they will be to every pleasure. They will neither sleep nor feel secure. Even those dependent on their Lord for gracious gifts of honors and of wealth will rise against and slay a master who is filled with wrath and hate. His family and friends he grieves, and is not served by those his gifts attract. No one is there, all in all, who being angry lives at ease. All these ills are brought about by wrath, our sorrow-bearing enemy. But those who seize and crush their anger down will find their joy in this and future lives. Getting what I do not want, and all that hinders my desire. In discontent, my anger finds its fuel. From this it grows and beats me down. Therefore, I will utterly destroy the sustenance of this my enemy, my foe who has no other purpose but to hurt and injure me. So come what may, I'll not be upset. My cheerful happiness of mind, dejection never brings me what I want. By virtue, my virtue will be warped and marred by it. If there's a remedy when trouble strikes, what reason is there for dejection? And if there is no help for it, what use is there in being glum? Pain, humiliation, insults, or rebukes, we do not want them, either for ourselves or those we love. For those we do not like, it's the reverse. The cause of happiness is rare, and many are the seeds of suffering. But if I have no pain, I'll never long for freedom. Therefore, O my mind, be steadfast. The karma folk and those devoted to the goddess endure the meaningless austerities of being cut and burned. So why am I so timid on the path of freedom? There's nothing that does not grow light through habit and familiarity. Putting up with little cares, I'll train myself to bear with great adversity. Don't I see that this is so with common irritations, bites and stings of snakes and flies, experiences of hunger and of thirst, and painful rashes on my skin? Heat and cold, the wind and rain, sickness, prison, beatings. I'll not fret about such things. To do so only aggravates my trouble. So this is similar to the parable of the two arrows that the Buddha taught. You're familiar with that, right, Bo?
I am, yes.
Okay. Should I explain it for those that may watch this recording at a later time?
Yes.
Sure. So I don't remember exactly how the sutra goes, so I'm paraphrasing. But basically, the Buddha was teaching that when we suffer, it's as if we're hit by two arrows. So the first arrow of course, is physical pain. But the second arrow is more of a mental type of pain when we dwell on the first arrow, which we can't always avoid the first arrow. We can't always avoid suffering, but we can avoid dwelling on it if we practice. Because dwelling on our suffering, on our pain, actually, whether it be mental or physical, only makes things worse and compounds things. There are some whose bravery increases at the sight of their own blood, while some lose all their strength and faint when it's another's blood they see. This results from how the mind is set, in steadfastness or cowardice. And so I'll scorn all injury, and hardships I will disregard. When sorrow falls upon the wise, their minds should be serene and undisturbed. For in their war against defiled emotion, many are their hardships, as in every battle. Thinking scorn of every pain and vanquishing such foes as hatred. These are exploits of victorious warriors. The rest is slain what is dead already. Suffering also has its worth. Through sorrow, pride is driven out, and pity felt for those who wander in samsara. Evil is avoided, goodness seems delightful. I am not angry with my bile and other humors, fertile source of suffering and pain. So why should living beings give offense? They likewise are impelled by circumstance. Although they were unlooked for, undesired, these ills afflict us all the same. And likewise, though unwanted and unsought, defilements nonetheless insistently arise. Never thinking, now I will be angry. People are impulsively caught up in anger. Irritation likewise comes, though never plans to be experienced. So that's actually a very interesting and good point. I don't ever remember, planning on being angry, like, putting it down in my calendar. Okay, I'm going to be angry at 3:45 tomorrow. Doesn't happen. So it is something that seems to happen on impulse, and you know, of course, I don't think many people actually want to feel that way. They don't want to be angry. Uh, Maybe there are rare cases where people do. I'm not sure, but I understand what Shanti Deva is saying. All defilements of whatever kind, the whole variety of evil deeds, are brought about by circumstances. None is independent, none autonomous. Conditions, once assembled, have no thought that they will now give rise to some result, nor does that which is engendered think that it has been produced. The primal substance, as they say, in that which has been called the self, do not arise designedly, and do not think, I will become. For that which is not born does not exist. So what could want to come to be? And permanently drawn toward its object, it can never cease from being so. That's also very interesting. For that which is not born does not exist, so what could want to come to be? I'm just pausing right there for myself, really, because that makes perfect sense.
The next chapter touches on that in a really good way too.
Oh, it does?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Indeed, this self, if permanent, is certainly inert like space itself. And should it meet with other factors, how could they affect it since it is unchanging? Interconnectedness. He's exactly right. So, question for you. I'm asking the question right now. Have you ever noticed, either of you, when after you hang out with somebody for a while, especially somebody that's a friend, somebody that's close to you, maybe even like family members that you enjoy being around, you pick up some of their mannerisms, don't you?
In my case, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have previously, you know, simply by being around other people, I had an accent, and that sort of gets passed about.
What about you, Bo? You've noticed this too?
Hmm. I also do the accent thing, and then I'll also pick up like slang they use.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing I do
Memes,
too.
memes spread that way, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I had a cousin, or I still have a cousin. I don't know like what he's up to these days, but we were really close when we were small, and he used to do this thing when he would laugh. Sometimes he would just go shh like that, like he was blowing air through his teeth. And I noticed I started to do that too after a while, and I still do it sometimes. So if I find something particularly funny, sometimes I'll go shh like that. And every time I do it, it always reminds me of him because that's where I got it from. So, you know, so that whole thing, no person is an island unto themselves. We're all affected by the different beings in our lives and the environment that we live in as well. So of course, the self is not a permanent solid thing. It's a this concept of a self is actually forever changing. Sometimes in subtle ways and sometimes in ways that aren't so subtle. If when conditions act on it, it stays just as it was before, what influence have these conditions had? They say that these are agents of the self, but what connection could there be between them? All things then depend on other things, and these likewise depend. They are not independent. Knowing this, we will not be annoyed at things that are like magical appearances. Resistance, you may say, is out of place, for what will be opposed by whom? The stream of sorrow is cut through by patience. There's nothing out of place in our assertion. Thus, when enemies or friends are seen to act improperly, remain serene and call to mind that everything arises from conditions. If things could be according to their wish, no suffering would ever come to any one of all embodied beings, for none of them wants pain of any kind. Yet carelessly, all unaware, they tear themselves on thorns, and ardent in pursuit of wives and goods, they starve themselves of nourishment. Some hang themselves or leap into the void, take poison or consume unhealthy food, or by their evil conduct bring destruction on themselves. For when affliction seizes them, they even slay themselves, the selves they love so much. So how can they not be the cause of others' bodily distress? Although we almost never feel compassion for those who through defilement bring about their own perdition, what purpose does our anger serve? If those who are like wanton children are by nature prone to injure others, there's no reason for our rage. It's like resenting fire for being hot. And if their faults are fleeting and contingent, if living beings are by nature mild, it's likewise senseless to resent them, as well be angry at the sky when it's full of smoke. Although it is their sticks that hurt me, I am angry at the ones who wield them, striking me. But they in turn are driven by their hatred. Therefore, with their hatred, I should take offense. It's just the same way in the past. it was who injured living beings. Therefore, it is right that injury should come to me, their torturer. Their weapons and my body, both are causes of my torment. They their weapons, I my body brandished. Who then is more worthy of my rage? This body, running sore in human form, merely touched, it cannot stand the pain. I'm the one who grasped it in my blind attachment. Whom should I resent when pain occurs? We who are like children shrink from pain, but love its causes. We hurt ourselves through our misdeeds, so why should others be the object of our rage? And who indeed should I be angry with? This pain is all my own contriving. Likewise, all the janitors of hell and all the groves of razor trees. So he's referring here to the particular hell realm where there there are trees, like groves and groves of trees, and people see their former lovers at the tops of these trees, but they try to climb up to get to them, and the leaves are actually razor blades. I won't go into too much detail about that, though. It gets kind of gruesome. Those who harm me rise against me. It's my karma that has summoned them. And if through this these beings go to hell, is it not I who bring their ruin? Because of them and through my patience, all my many sins are cleansed and purified. But they will be the ones who, thanks to me, will have the long-drawn agonies of hell. Therefore, I am their tormentor. Therefore, it is they who bring me benefit. Thus, with what perversity, pernicious mind, will you be angry with your enemies? If a patient quality of mind is mine, I shall avoid the pains of hell. But though indeed I save myself, what of my foes? What fate's in store for them? If I repay them harm for harm, indeed they'll not be saved thereby. My conduct will in turn be marred. Austerity of patience brought to nothing. Because the mind is bodiless, it cannot be destroyed by anyone. Because of mind's attachment to the body is oppressed by pain. Scorn and hostile words and comments that I do not like to hear, my body is not harmed by them. What reason do you have, O mind, for your resentment? The enmity that others show me, since in this or future lives it cannot actually devour me, why should I be so averse to it? Perhaps I turn from it because it hinders me from having what I want, but all my property I'll leave behind, while sins will keep me steady company. Better far for me to die today than live a long and evil life. However long the days of those like me, the pain of dying will be all the same. One man dreams he lives 100 years of happiness, but then he wakes. Another dreams an instant's joy, but then he likewise wakes. And when they wake, the happiness of both is finished, never to return. Likewise, when the hour of death comes round, our lives are over, whether brief or long. Though we be rich in worldly goods, delighting in our wealth for many years, despoiled and stripped, as though by thieves, we must go naked and with empty hands. So I was watching this episode of 48 Hours. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday. These two people, this husband and wife, they were so wealthy, so rich that they decided, oh, you know what? We're going to move to Costa Rica and we're going to live in a mansion, in the rainforest there, right? But that didn't that didn't bring them happiness, not at all. It actually made things much worse having all this wealth somehow. Um, they started to get paranoid. They thought people were going to hurt them, maybe break into their mansion and try to steal their things. So they had to hire guards. So, of course, this place that at first probably seemed like a paradise to them became something else entirely. But it ended in a very sad way. The husband, um, trigger warning, by the way. The husband was killed, and nobody really knows if it was by his own hand or not. His wife was accused of it, though, and she had to go to trial. They found her not guilty, but in Costa Rica, the idea of double jeopardy does not exist. You can be found not guilty, and you can be tried again if there's an appeal. So that's what happened. There was an appeal. She was tried again, and this time they found her guilty. She went to prison. I don't remember for how long. And this is Costa Rican prison, so there are about 50 women to one cell, which the cells larger than the small cells we have here, but still 50 women, one cell, 3 toilets. Her lawyer made an appeal. She went to trial again. They found her not guilty. Then they decided to try her for a 4th time. Eventually, they released her, found her not guilty again, and she came back to the United States. So please don't ever think that, hoarding massive amounts of wealth can make you happy. Don't put refuge in that. While money does buy comfort, and it's good to have money so you have a place to live, you have food to eat, you have those necessities. I don't believe anybody should want to hoard massive amounts of money for themselves. And it's very sad what happened to this lady and her husband. I personally, I'm going on a rant here. Personally, I don't think that she killed her husband. Just by watching and noticing her reactions, and I really don't think she did it. And it's still very, very extremely sad. And I did tear up because I felt compassion for this lady and her husband and what had happened to them. So this is this is samsara. This is delusion. We think things, we think, impermanent things are going to bring us lasting happiness, and they don't. Though we be rich in worldly goods, delighting in our wealth for many years, despoiled and stripped as though by thieves, we must go naked with empty hands. Perhaps we'll claim that by our wealth we live, and living gather merit, dissipating evil. But if we are aggressive for the sake of profit, won't our gains be evil, our merits lost? And if the aim for which we live is thereby wasted and undone, what use is there in living thus, when evil is the only consequence? And if when people slander us, we claim our anger is because they injure others, how is it we do not resent their slander when it's aimed at someone else? And if we bear with this antipathy because it's due to other factors, why are we impatient when they slander us? Defilement, after all, has been the cause of it. Even those who vilify and undermine the sacred doctrine, images and stupas are not proper objects of our anger. Buddhas are themselves untouched thereby. And even if our teachers, relatives, and friends are now the object of aggression, all derives from factors, as we have explained. This we should perceive and curb our wrath. Beings suffer injury alike from lifeless things as well as living beings. So why be angry only with the latter? Rather, let us simply bear with the harm. Some do evil things because of ignorance. Some respond with anger being ignorant. Which of them is faultless in such acts? To whom shall error be ascribed? Instead, why did they act in times gone by that they are now so harmed at others' hands? Since everything depends on karma, why should I be angry at such things? This I see, and therefore, come what may, I'll hold fast to the virtuous path and foster in the hearts of all an attitude of mutual love. Now, when a building is ablaze and flames leap out from house to house, the wise course is to take and fling away the straw and everything that spreads the fire. And so, in fear that merit might be all consumed, we should at once cast far away our mind's attachments, tender for the fiery flames of hate. It is not a happy chance if, when condemned to death, a man is freed, his hand cut off in ransom for his life. And is it not a happy chance if now, to escape hell, I suffer only the misfortunes of the human state? If even these, my present pains, are now beyond my strength to bear, why do I not cast off my anger, cause of future sorrows and infernal torment? For sake of gaining all that I desired, 1,000 times I underwent the tortures of the realms of hell, achieving nothing for myself and others. The present aches are nothing to compare with those, and yet great benefits will come from them. These troubles that dispel the pain of wanderers, it's only right that I rejoice in them. When others take delight in giving praise to those endowed with talents, why, O mind, do you not find a joy likewise in praising them? The pleasure that is gained therefrom itself gives rise to blameless happiness. It's urged on us by all the holy ones, and is the perfect way of winning others. But they're the ones who'll have happiness, you say. If this then is a joy you would resent, abandon paying wages and returning favors. You will be the loser both in this life and the next. When praise is heaped upon your qualities, you're keen that others should be pleased thereby, but when the compliment is paid to others, you feel no inclination to rejoice as well. You want the happiness of beings, have wished to be enlightened for their sake. So why should others irk you when they find some pleasure for themselves? And if you claim to wish that beings be enlightened, honored by the triple world, when petty marks of favor come their way, why are you so discomforted? When dependents who rely on you, to whom you are obliged to give support, find themselves the means of livelihood, will you not be happy? Will you once again be angry? If even this you do not want for beings, how could you want Buddhahood for them? And how can anyone have Bodhisattva who is angry when another prospers? If someone else receives a gift, or that gift stays in the benefactor's house, in neither case will it be yours. So given or withheld, why is it your concern? All your merit and the faith of others, all your sterling qualities, why throw them all away, not holding on to what might bring you riches? Tell me, why are you not angry at yourself? So, of course, I think we've all seen people like that before who get angry, jealous, upset with people that, have more than them. Especially when people win the lottery. Bad things happen to people that win the lottery, a lot of the time. Sometimes it ends in murder. If you ever win the lottery, don't tell anyone. Not only do you feel no sorrow for the evils you have done, you even wish to match yourself with those whose merit has been earned. If unhappiness befalls your enemies, why should this be the cause of your rejoicing? The wishes of your mind alone will not, in fact, can drive their injury. And if your hostile wishes were to bring them harm, again, what cause of joy is that to you? Why then I would be satisfied? Are these your thoughts? Is anything more ruinous than that? Caught upon the hook, unbearable and sharp, cast by the fisherman my own defilements, I'll be flung into the cauldrons of the pit, and surely boiled by all the janitors of hell. Veneration, praise, and fame serve not to increase merit or my span of life, bestowing neither health nor strength, and nothing for the body's ease. If I am wise in what is good for me, I'll ask what benefit these bring. For if it's entertainment I desire, I might as well resort to alcohol and cards. I lose my life, my wealth I squander, all for reputation's sake. What use are words, in whom would they delight when I am dead and in my grave? Children can't help crying when their sandcastles come crumbling down. My mind is so like them when praise and reputation start to fail. Short-lived sound devoid of intellect can never in itself intend to praise me. I say that it's the joy that others take in me. It's this that is the cause of my delight. But what is it to me if others take delight in someone else or even in myself? Their pleasure's theirs and theirs alone. No part of it is felt by me. If I am happy at the joy of those who take delight, then everyone should be a source of joy to me. When people take delight in others, why am I not happy at their pleasures? Sympathetic joy, one of the four Brahma Viharas. My voice is going. We have to stop. I'm sorry. We're in the middle of chapter 6. I have it bookmarked. We'll continue there when we start again next Sunday.
Thank you so much. It's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you both for joining. Offer Donna only if you want to.
Hmm.
And
Thank you,
only
Entrepreneur.
yes.
But thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm dedicating the merit.
Hmm.
Gewa di nuruduta che chi sawa gopar show. All right, thank you both, and I'll see you again.
Rest your voice.
Mm-hmm.